Last thing I had on the docket was the New York Times and changing a headline. Did you happen to be able to look at that a little bit, Masood?
Yeah, I saw that. It was actually going from something kind of positive to something super negative.
hmm Yeah, what I have up here is New York Times, and the first edition of this headline was Trump urges unity versus racism, and the second edition of the headline was assailing hate, but not guns. And that to me definitely seems like two distinctly different political messages, wouldn't you say, Masood?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I see that. Yeah, it's like totally different. And also not only that, at the bottom of the page, it's like one of the first one, it says backlash to extremism pressures president. And then the second one, oh sorry, the first one says a national outcry over extremism.
hmm
And then the first one it says backlash to extremism pressures president.
hmm Yeah,
Which is totally
that's
different, totally opposite. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised you told me about that. You sent me the information. I was like, okay, so I need to take a look at it. And I see it's like totally different. The first one is just gathering people together in terms of unity.
hmm
Um, it's like their take, New York Times take from the same speech or the same speech, but totally opposite.
yeah.
So
And
what is the article about?
I haven't read the article myself, but we won't get into like the nuance of the article itself because one thing that really kind of surprised me is I've been following a lot of like our Democratic candidates for the Democratic nomination, and it seems like right away every single one of them started weighing in. Like you have one candidate who says, that is not what happened. You have Cory Booker who says, lives literally depend on you doing better. New York Times, please do better. Then you have people just, it seems like every single one of them was attempting to get them to change. And like to top it all off, our favorite politician, Kristen, Miss AOC, let this front page serve as a reminder of how white supremacy is aided by and often relies upon the cowardice of mainstream institutions. Because, like, I mean, I don't know how much news that you watch or you consume, Masood, but would you say that in general that, you know, the news that you watch is abiding and encouraging uh, white supremacy?
No, I don't think so. No, I do watch. I mean, I try to read mostly, but there's like short videos that I watch. A part of it, I don't watch a lot of TV. So, like this one, when I saw that, I mean, I wouldn't notice it. There was this thing that it's the same page that you're reading right now. I was there, and it was like the night before when the electronic version was out on the website or whatever. So they received a lot of reviews, and everybody started just criticizing them, and they suddenly changed it. And there was actually there's a sentence that they sent out. Their statement was, let's see if we can find it. Um, yeah, so their statement was the headline was bad and has been changed for the second edition. That was what the spokesperson for the Times told the Washington Post in an email.
Hmm.
The headline was bad.
It was a bad headline. It was bad and
The
it should
headline was
feel bad.
bad and has been changed for the second edition.
It just wasn't what people wanted it to be, so the news agency changed what they wrote. That seems
Yeah,
counterintuitive.
yeah, I don't think that was bad actually. So it's like urging for unity versus racism.
Yeah, it's like
It's not bad.
I think that of the two, that if you look at them, one seems to paint a completely different picture about, you know, I honestly feel like urging unity versus racism is definitely the thing that I want to see. But I also am under the understanding that not everybody wants to. I do legitimately believe that there are people out there that don't want to see the president cast in any sort of positive light for anything. And this isn't even just like an instinct that I have. This is something that I have seen in action, and this is something that bothers me because the New York Times, like nobody looks at the New York Times and says, "Oh, this is a conservative newspaper." People generally say the opposite, but I think that it's really a clear indication that it's not even really journalism that's going on. It's seeking to be a for-profit venture and using activism to be able to make profit under the guise of news, and that's something that bothers me. It bothers me that you can frame yourself as a journalistic organization and then have all the intention of just being activism towards a cause that's against the president of the United States. It seems like you want the president to fail, and that's a pretty bad stance to take of a country of 350 million people.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, you shouldn't want your president to fail. Not saying you have to like the guy,
hmm And I don't.
but there should be a respect that comes with the office.
Well, I think that respect is definitely something that's earned, and I think that there are people who justifiably
Hmm.
don't respect the president. but I think that there's a difference between having respect for someone and, having active resistance for someone. And I think that, if people thought that Barack Obama was a president that was resisted, like, I think that this is, like, far and away a much more resisted administration. Masood, you don't really have the context of, like, having been in the country for any. You've really only been in the country for, like, the Trump presidency, or, like, the Trump the lead up to that, right?
Yeah, it was maybe a year before that, but not much.
Like, how does all of this strike you? Like, does this strike you as how things are supposed to be?
I mean, the changing of this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. No, I don't know, because I wasn't here. As I said, like, I wasn't here, so I don't know how it should. It's just the things that I see right now, maybe especially right now that I'm actually looking into the news more. For the last probably 1.5 years, I guess, I've been watching the news, and actually news became a little bit more interesting after Trump became president a little bit. So there was like a lot of fights and interesting talks and arguments.
News
But
became more interesting.
yes, yeah. So it's I don't know. It's like a little bit more interesting. Yes,
This is so
but
clever.
before that, I was not really interested.
Okay, imagine the two of you are standing in front of Donald Trump right now, and you both walk into each other, and you're supposed to shake each other's hands, right? Do you address him by his name, or do you address him as the president? Like, shouldn't there be a respect for that position?
Mm-hmm.
Because what will happen to our country if we no longer have respect for the position of our president?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely see the value in that thought. Like, I would think that for any president, current, going forward, or previous, that if I met them, I would say, Mr. President, that sort of thing. Like, there is an inherent respect for an office, but I don't think that people should carry an inherent respect for people. There may be a little bit of an overlap with that, but I think that people should be able to not have respect for, an elected official of any kind. I don't think that just being an elected official should confer you, like, some sort of sense of impunity to judgment. But
that's not his problem. He is who he was before he was president. That's the problem of the American people for electing this kind of person as their president. So everybody who's freaking out right now and rallying against Trump, it's not his fault. Well, it's probably his parents' fault that he's such an a-hole. But the problem is that the United States elected him to the office that he is in.
Mm-hmm.
We will still have that office when President Trump is no longer president. The precedent that we set while he's in office will influence how we treat presidents in the future to come. So if we still want to have a country, y'all better calm down, okay? And
yeah, damn, you're smart.
The reason that I would respect him or any other president is just because that's the choice that people made. It takes a lot of. I mean, it's just a vote that. It's just a vote. It's just a vote that this person has been chosen as a president. And as you said, like, it doesn't matter which position we're talking about, but just based on an election,
Mm-hmm.
somebody's chosen to do something. Yes, that position kind of expects some respect.
Mm-hmm. And what about foreign countries? If a foreign country, say Masood, say Iran, was saying, the United States isn't fully on board with their president, what power does he really have? Doesn't that make us more vulnerable? Doesn't that make, our involvement in foreign affairs more precarious because our president doesn't have the support of his population?
Yeah, that actually, maybe when it comes to public opinion in other countries, yes, that's the case. Just an average, I'm going to say just a regular person in another country might look at it saying that what kind of a power a president of the United States has that, there's so many things against him, like even their own journalism, or their own newspapers and news medias and television says a lot of stuff against the president, and changes the topic from within just an overnight to just to crush what he's been trying to do. Yes, it's different, but making the country a little bit vulnerable in terms of diplomacy or maybe military, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go ahead and pose a question to you, both of you guys, then, since it seems like you're kind of both agreeing a little bit on this. Is it the role of news media to hold politicians' feet to the fire when it comes to things that they do versus things that they say? Is it the role of news organizations to oppose a president, or is this an overstep? How do you guys feel about that?
Well, the thing that we see here, this is not investigative journalism. This is social ploy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you talking specifically about this?
Let's just say in general, like, is it the role of government to hold elected officials' feet to the fire on what they say versus what they do?
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to investigate people in office and report what they're supposed to be unbiased, right? That's never
objective.
What do you think, Masood?
I think it's a good thing that the news media can oppose to the president or any other position, because I feel like that actually causes the country to go to a right direction. If I had, let's say, I don't know, 10 friends, right? And all those 10 friends, every single day, they would just come up to me and say, yes, you're doing the best job, you are the best person, you look the best, you walk very nicely, like you dress very well every single day, although it wasn't the case. I would feel differently. I would just treat everybody else differently. I would become a different person. So, with that, I'm gonna say if I have like somebody, like a real friend, who would just come up to me and say, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. But just saying it and bring it up to someone, that would just help me a lot. Like that thing would just maybe just help me become the president for a second term, right? But if I say no, nobody's allowed to do that, the country, I don't think that would go to the right direction. It should.
Right. And I think the component that's there that makes it useful is honesty. And not only honesty, but your friend wants the best for you.
That's true. But when you say like New York Times says such a thing, maybe he doesn't want the best for Trump. That's true. But at the same time, having the freedom of speech, just having this freedom, this liberty of saying whatever it is against somebody, against any specific person, it's actually a privilege that the society has.
And it's definitely not a privilege that I would ever say that I seek to deprive, media companies of. But I think that there has to be a calling of what it is. Like it's pandering. It's pandering to people that hold a viewpoint in order to be able to get subscriptions, in order to be able to get clicks, in order to be able to make money. It's what's profitable for them to do. And I don't think that journalism is supposed to be, all about seeking profit at the expense of the message that you're putting forth. Like if tomorrow Trump brokered a huge landmark deal that completely denuclearized and unified, let's say he unifies the Korean Peninsula. There's no longer a North Korea or a South Korea. It's just Korea again. And people that say that their journalism don't report that or report it in like the least charitable way possible, like that's not really news. That's purely just activism. Like, and this to me is like, showing the difference between one headline versus the other and why it seems that came about can't be seen as journalism. It's purely just activism for profit. So we call it what it is.
Yeah, it's like the manufacturing of a political opinion.
It's I think that it's at best the manufacturing of a political opinion, and I think that at worst, and this is what people fear, is that it's a collusion on the part of people to be able to influence the outcome of an upcoming election.
Maybe we're all Russian. We're all Russian bots on the internet now. You really can't tell the difference, though, can you?
I have been accused of being a Russian bot. I got banned by Twitter, probably presuming that I was the Russian bot. I don't know why.
Who hasn't been accused of being a bot now?
Masood, have you been accused of being a bot?
And what?
Have you been accused of being a bot?
What?
A bot?
Like a robot.
Oh, no, not yet.
So when you're on an online forum, you can create an account of a fake person and then post an opinion of that fake person, and other people, real people, won't know that person is fake. And you can do that not just for one account, but for multitudes of accounts, thereby creating waves of manufactured societal opinion that people will go, and people who are inclined to, hop on bandwagons are susceptible to agreeing with these kind of like manufactured things, right? So that, I think that's what the Russian conspiracy thing was all about, was the interference with our elections.
just speaking of bots, I have to bring up one of my favorite of the political memes, the NPC meme. The idea that there are a large group of people that are, spouting off a talking point, and then when they're faced with resistance to that, it's kind of just something where they shut down. But it's just something I like.